Revelation says the final punishment for mankind's evil will be heralded by the peals of celestial trumpets.
You see 7 angels, each having a trumpet, and they come forth, and then begins the series of the trumpet judgments.
Some believe that these judgments will be natural disasters of unprecedented magnitude. They look to science for answers, as they theorize that the cryptic text in Revelation may allude to physical forces on or beyond Earth. Some New Testament scholars say that this and biblical references to fire falling from the sky could be interpreted as asteroids. A collision between an asteroid and the Earth may be the catastrophic event predicted in another verse from Revelation.
The third angel sounded his trumpet, and a great star, blazing like a torch, fell from the sky. The name of the star is Wormwood.
Some believe that Revelation's author, John, is not specifying a star in this passage, but a comet or asteroid. It is widely accepted that ancient observers could not have understood the difference between various types of celestial bodies. And while no stars are named Wormwood, there is strong scientific evidence that an asteroid strike could play a major role in the mass extinction of life on Earth.
Astronomers now believe that all 3 generations of dinosaurs, Triassic, Jurassic, and Cretaceous, were brought to extinction, at least in part by extraterrestrial collision events, giant comets and asteroids striking the Earth.
.5 billion years ago, Earth was struck by another planet in a collision that created the moon. But what if another planet struck us today?
You've got ring particles showering down over the entire planet. That's a disaster in and of itself, let alone everything else that's coming.
It would be like a rainstorm. But now imagine that each raindrop is a meteor. Solar systems are not static, and so over time, a planet can get kicked out due to the gravitational tug-of-war from other planets wandering the cosmos without any home star anymore, and that's what makes it rogue. There are maybe twice as many rogue planets wandering between the stars of the Milky Way than there are actual stars in the Milky Way itself.
But another collision between a rogue planet and Earth, like the one over 4 billion years ago, can have only one possible outcome for humanity.
Serious, serious disaster.
The rogue planet's rings, made of billions of pieces of ice and rock, are about to strike the Earth. In their direct path, hundreds of millions of people across the continents of Europe and Asia. Shanghai, pulled by the rogue planet's gravity, the Huangpu River has surged over its banks. The floodwaters tremble as earthquakes shake the city. Emergency crews struggle to help. Then, above the city, in a sudden silent explosion, the black of night turns to day. The rogue planet's rings have hit the atmosphere. Air friction makes the particles explode into flame. It's what happens when any asteroid or meteor enters our atmosphere. But now, there are hundreds of millions of them.
That rogue planet is approaching us, but its gravity arrives first.
Coming in at 72,000 miles an hour, the rogue planet is now 250,000 miles away. Its intense gravitational pull has just ripped the moon apart. People from China to South America run for safety, to basements, bunkers, and old bomb shelters, stockpiling as much food and water as possible. Then, in an instant, TV sets all over the world go black. The rogue planet is now so close, its gravitational pull has thrown communication satellites into disarray. GPS satellites have also been hurled out of orbit. Having disrupted satellites, the rogue planet starts to make the Earth shake. But there might be one other possibility.
In an event like this, when the Earth itself is ripped to shreds, the only way for humans to survive an event like this is to become a multi-planet species.
The old Orion project is probably our best bet to survive.
Project Orion was a U.S. Air Force program from the 1950s and early 60s to create spaceships big enough to start colonies on distant worlds. Powering these enormous ships into deep space would take a controlled series of over 1,000 small-scale atomic explosions.
Recent Freedom of Information Act requests have revealed that the Air Force made it quite a bit farther than I think people understand in developing the Orion program. The idea went so far as to undergo practical tests at the Nevada test site. They used conventional explosives to take a model and prove the system would work, and it did.
While Project Orion was canceled in 1965, its legacy provides the only hope that humanity could survive the deadly rogue planet. A Russian naval commander finds a target of opportunity in the southern Pacific. An American aircraft carrier docked in Australia at Sydney Harbor. The Russian commander launches a nuclear-tipped cruise missile at it to take it out. The carrier and its 6,000 crew members are instantly vaporized. 6,000 miles away, American nukes strike Beijing as the U.S. suspects Chinese involvement in the Sydney attack. Chinese submarines retaliate. With nuclear hits along America's west coast, from Seattle to San Diego. The death toll pushes past 100 million, as thousands of square miles are left smoldering where cities and military bases once stood. Russia have missiles both on subs and on land. Land missiles are based deep in the heartland of each country. And while both sides have them in silos, only Russia deploys mobile launchers. These weapons are designed to kill and destroy on an unthinkable level.
If you make the rocket very large, and you can make the nuclear warheads very small, you don't have to limit yourself to just one warhead per missile.
Some missiles have as many as 10 warheads. Each one 50 times as powerful as the bomb that destroyed Hiroshima in 1945.
In the first strike, you're going to have something in the order of 600 to 700 ballistic missiles with nuclear warheads from both countries flying against each other.
A nuclear war in the modern age is going to be pretty fast. A lot of it is going to be motivated by the fact that a lot of our weapons are targeting a lot of their weapons and vice versa. So whoever strikes first gets to use their weapon. If you leave the weapon in the silo and they're allowed to hit it, then you've lost it. They call this use it or lose it.
The first cities that would be hit are cities that have important military and civilian leadership and command structure in them. Washington, D.C., Moscow. You would have enormously devastating consequences. In Washington, D.C., the most likely targets to be hit very early on include the White House and the Pentagon. A 500 kiloton warhead attack on the White House would create a fireball with a diameter of 1 mile.
You are vaporized. You are instantly one with the universe.
At virtually the same time as Russian bombs hit Washington, the US, Britain, and France strike Moscow with 80 warheads. The city becomes a field of flaming wreckage, and 1 million people are dead almost instantly. In Kansas, America's heartland, the first occupants arrive at a unique high-end survival bunker. Lavishly outfitted from the remains of a silo that once housed an Atlas rocket, America's first intercontinental ballistic missile.
There aren't very many fallout shelters anymore, but people have decked out these missile silos into these luxury apartments. They cost more than $1 million.
They have 5 years worth of food, they've got hydroponic growing systems, and apparently 70 people, that's a community, can live for 5 years and wait for the worst to blow over. But if they were able to, hold on and survive, you could have a birth of a new superculture, which would be really cool. We're guessing that between 1,000 and 10,000 humans would have enough of a variety that we could kickstart the human race again. Will enough people survive?
We know how not to fool ourselves. We now know how to make progress much faster. The scientific method allows us to quickly pick up from where we left off. We've got a lot of this knowledge.
With the passage of time, the world's decimated population grows, slowly. A century later, the ruins of abandoned cities are overgrown by weeds, as nature eventually reclaims them. There is little rebuilding in the Northern Hemisphere, where the destruction was the greatest.
Now, the real interesting question is what will happen with the rest of the world? Will maybe, perhaps, Brazil rise to power, or South Africa, or even Australia?
But a rise to power will be a slow process. A city like Rio de Janeiro may not have been physically destroyed, but so many died from starvation that few people remain to pick up where civilization left off. Survivors in the warring countries become refugees, driven to head for warmer climates.
People will migrate.
We're talking about a silent killer that has massive amounts of radiation hitting the upper atmosphere, wiping out all electronics, bathing us in ultraviolet radiation and X-rays.
Anyone, anywhere within the path of the beam is going to get this muon radiation.
It's the most devastating radiation in the universe. It will immediately start to deplete the atmosphere. It will wipe away the ozone layer. You're facing an extinction. This kind of event is a reset button for the planet. Whatever survives at this point is a roll of the dice.
Extraterrestrials came here to Earth and tried to fight us, I'm pretty sure we would lose. As an intelligent, technological civilization, humanity is pretty young.
If we faced an alien invasion, an alien attack, I think it would come across a number of different fronts.
They strike with more powerful weapons than we've ever seen.
If we're attacked by an alien advanced intelligence, I don't think we have any hope of surviving. Motion picture images of a brave and gallant resistance force clutching a rifle, fighting off an alien, I don't think that's going to happen.
As an intelligent, technological civilization, humanity is pretty young.
If we faced an alien invasion, an alien attack, I think it would come across a number of different fronts. Firstly, I think they'd probably blind us by destroying our satellites. Then I think they might try to take down the grid, and that effectively knocks out the power.
Of course, the most logical areas to strike would be where the government leaders congregate, and also where the military congregates for their ability to control any situation that might affect their countries.
They strike with more powerful weapons than we've ever seen.
Motion picture images of a brave and gallant resistance force clutching a rifle, fighting off an alien. I don't think that's going to happen.
As the Earth approaches the black hole's singularity, the Earth itself is being stretched and squeezed. And that stretching and squeezing affects the continents in a profound way.
The planet turns into a hellscape. The gravitational pressure is so great that the continents themselves begin to crumble. The frictions evolved alone will break this planet down into molten rock.
Eventually, it gets stretched so much that it starts breaking apart. It's a process known as spaghettification.
When you talk about an end via a black hole, there's nothing left. You have become part of this infinitely dense object.
It's conceivable that a star could pass sufficiently close to the solar system and to Earth that it would gravitationally deflect Earth's trajectory, and it could send Earth almost directly into the sun.
You need water and you need food. You won't have either of those about halfway through this journey to the sun.
Life, as we know it, would not exist at this point because temperatures of hundreds of degrees are already more than enough to kill off humans, let alone the couple of thousand degrees that we're talking about now.
We are very rapidly just going to become another large drop into the nuclear furnace that is the sun. And then that's it.
The light from the destruction takes several minutes to travel to Mars, where a robot rover takes a few pre-programmed photos of Earth. These are the last pictures that will ever be taken of our planet. Almost 4 billion years after life on Earth began, the last people are gone. But is it possible something from our world could still survive?
There may be some pieces of bacteria living in those little bits of rock before being completely vaporized. And some bacteria on Earth are pretty hardy and can live in some pretty extreme environments. It's maybe conceivable that some little bits of bacteria might survive this.